Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. And my God, we actually got a series between the Leafs and the Habs. I didn't think it was ever going to start, Corinne.
No, nor did I. Quite frankly, the last time these two teams met in the playoffs, I wasn't even born. So
okay, I was 12 years old, so I have an advantage.
I was around.
And I remember because Paul Harrison was playing in goal for the Leafs, and that's the reason they got swept. And but by the way, Tiger Williams, Larry Robinson scored the overtime goal in Game 4. There was a penalty called on Tiger Williams. So it was a power play goal. The game ends, and Tiger Williams, I think Bob Myers was the referee. Tiger Williams tries to go after Bob Myers.
Yeah, that's what Tiger Williams would do back in the day.
Because Tiger Williams was a psycho. I mean, yeah, I say that lovingly, but he was a psycho.
No, he was.
And Dan Maloney and Darryl Sittler and Larry Robinson stopped him from going at the referee, basically saying the series is over. All you're going to do is create havoc for yourself. Don't do this. And then he calmed down. But that's a narrative to something else that just happened. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But Russ, start us off the pre-show.
All right. So the NBA had a play-in game yesterday. The Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. The Lakers won with a LeBron James buzzer beater. And at that moment, it made me decide I don't like play-ins. And so I don't want play-ins in the NHL, and I don't want them in anything. Because I'll tell you why. The NBA will be the first league that has a play-in that goes all the way and wins a championship.
Yeah,
that is a huge problem with the play-in part. And I didn't think it would happen that quickly, but it's happening.
But see, the way the NBA is doing it is asinine. Because this is how they're doing it. 9 plays 10, and the winner plays the loser of 7 plays 8. Then so last night was LA Golden State. LA wins. Now Golden State plays, I think, Memphis, who beat San Antonio. That was the 9-10. No, you don't do it that way. You do it single elimination, 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9, and it's basically a playoff.
Is LA really going to lose, Mike? They're not going to lose.
No, that's the thing. LA's in now. They're the 7 seed. They're in, and now Golden State plays Memphis.
Those the other teams that get the other seed, right? But
exactly.
my basic point is, we are getting to a point, and I think it could happen in hockey too, where a team gets a little beat up during the playoffs. They know they can hang around for the play-in, and they know they're good enough to win. And this could happen. Like, let's say Tampa wins this year, right? And next year, because they've won 2 years in a row, they're a little banged up going into next year, and all of a sudden there's a play-in. That is a team that would hang around to play in the play-in, knowing that they could win it all. And, I'm not a fan of that.
Now, Corinne, it
has nothing to do with Tampa. It's just the process.
Right. Now, Corinne, you were saying before we went live about, we'll talk about Canada and how they don't have fans and the games in the U.S. do. Well, I did read that if there is a Game 6, which I think there will be in Toronto-Montreal, that 2,500 fans might be at the Bell Center. I hope they devise a better way to get tickets to people than the way the Toronto Blue Jays are doing it in Buffalo. I just went through the hoops of trying to buy a single ticket for one game. Of course, it's the Yankees, who I'm a fan of. Yesterday, there was a pre-sale, and a friend of mine got tickets. It was difficult, but he got tickets for a Houston Astros game, which, by the way, Russ, I am going dressed as a garbage can.
Right, that's perfect. I think you should.
Dressed as a garbage can and beating on the garbage can. Or
what color garbage can? Gray or green?
Of course, gray.
Of course. That's my point.
Of course. But, okay, so today was the sale to the general public, and they have vaccinated and non-vaccinated like every venue right now. I kept trying for 45 minutes to get through, and it kept saying "oops" on the website. It was
a broken link thing.
Such an annoying proposition. And then finally I got through and got one ticket, and I paid a lot more than I wanted to pay. I feel sorry for, the rabid fans in La Belle Provence that want tickets and they're it'll be akin to hitting the Mega Million or the Powerball to get to those games.
To be fair, ever since this thing started and they had to suspend their operations, the Canadians have been saying that as soon as it's possible to have fans in the building, priority will be given to season tickets holder. So I believe they are the first ones
but they have more
able to buy, and I don't think that it's going to go to general sale, really.
No, it won't. But you have
season ticket holders.
Season ticket holders, so that's a problem too.
Yeah, I mean there'll have to be a lottery among season ticket holders,
right,
and there'll probably have to be a limitation on how
many. It'll be like Super Bowl tickets, but worse.
Probably, yeah, but we'll see.
Yes. Okay, let's get started. Zach will be joining us in a moment. Hello, Hockey World. Corinne, just introduce yourself after Russ. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, May 20th, 2021.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Kevin Ice. I blog for the ads on HockeyBuzz.
And I'm Michael Agello, and I got a ticket to the Yankees Blue Jays.
You're going to go as a garbage can. Move on.
And this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, let's start with this, because as soon Colorado was up 3-0, and I said, I'm done with this game. Colorado is clearly the dominant team. This game is over. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I wake up this morning, and the first thing I see on the trending is Nazem Kadri, and I say, oh boy. And then I watch the video, and I say to myself, what do you expect? What the hell do you expect?
I just came on, Mike, but I have to say this. If I could have put money down on the first thing I would have heard you say today, it would be that. What can you expect? Not even I know exactly. I don't have money. I don't have to know what you're talking about.
Nope.
I don't need a topic or subject. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I knew that was go ahead.
No, that's fair. That's even money.
And you're right. You're 100% right, Mike, because you've been saying this all along, but it's just like that was why it was perfect to me. I don't know. Just continue. Sorry.
Right. No, because I said and Kyle Dubas has been criticized for almost 2 years for making a trade. Now, I'm not going to legislate the deal, but they got destroyed because Tyson Berry didn't work out in Toronto, and that was because Babcock misused him, and not because Tyson Berry was not a good player. Look at how he played in Edmonton this year. He's a good player. He's just an offensive defenseman. Nazem Kadri has a disconnect between his brain and his body because he cannot control himself. He does ultimately stupid things that screw up his team constantly. He did it once. He did it twice with Toronto. They traded his ass out of Toronto. He goes to Colorado. All he's got to do is keep his impulse control in check. And what did he do? He's going to get suspended for 5 or 6 games.
But he can't.
I don't think it'll be 5. I don't think.
I'm going to say 3.
I'm going to say 3 also. I think that's right.
It's an in-person hearing, so it's at least 5.
Well, they said they offered
it. It's not a demanded in-person.
It wasn't a demand, Mike.
I don't know I don't know the rules on that exactly. Okay, but
but it was offered. It wasn't a demand.
If it's a phone hearing, it's less than 5.
It's like the difference between trying to take a girl out on a date and offering or demanding her to go. There's there's a slight difference there.
I've always demanded.
Well, the only thing I'll say,
demand you meet with me today.
I'll be real quick.
Whenever you say you demand to meet with someone, it doesn't usually work well.
I'll be real quick on this one. Kadri will never learn. That's true. He's not going to change because it would make him a different player. And this may give Alex Newhook a chance to get in the lineup, and maybe the Avs won't care at that point. We'll see.
I mean, and this is obviously the first thing. Did you guys see the interview you probably did of a couple weeks ago when he was on a podcast,
TSN radio in Toronto,
and saying that he would never do this, that he's not going to ever do this something like that again. That's not his
Why
thing.
would we believe him? Nobody would believe that.
No, I know, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like he just can't. When he sees an opportunity, something clicks in his head. It's like, I can kill this guy. That's what happens when he skates through the zone. So it's like you see that clearly, right? But obviously this does help the Leafs make it look like not as bad of a trade, right, and all that stuff, and I get that. But at the same time, Kadri also has brought some really good things to Colorado, and he also has given some. Now this is a terrible time for him to do this, whether or not it affects them or not. Like if it's one thing to get a 3-game suspension on the Colorado Avalanche when you're playing the St. Louis Blues in the first round, and you can win probably without Kadri and probably without 2 or 3 other guys. It's another thing when he did win Toronto and he was a key player and it mattered more.
That's true.
In this situation, Kadri is, this kind of plays into Kadri's lure a little bit more, like as far as like, he's just loose cannon that's going to be, when he's out there, you're going to be afraid to skate through the zone because he's there. It's a different situation.
This illustrates the point that Kevin Lee made on our trade deadline Buzzcast when he talked about Colorado was not happy with the way Kadri had played, and they went out and traded for Carl Soderberg. Now, Soderberg is not a second-line center, but in this instance, and Russ may be right, they insert Newhook, and Newhook may be given more responsibility. They may have to promote like Comfer or other.
They'll put Comfer up because of the face-offs, because it's better at face-offs, and he'll get close to what Kadri does.
But the issue here is Kadri, and not how it'll affect Colorado St. Louis. How it will affect Colorado, Minnesota, or Colorado, Vegas, because I believe the suspension will be more than 5 games. And if it's more than 5 games, then he'll be absent for part of that series. And again, it reflects on the selfishness of the player and the stupidity of his acts. He's a talented player. If he would just stop being an a-hole,
he's not going to.
I have a quick logistical question before we move on. Let's say it's a 5-game suspension. And this series ends in 4 games.
Right.
It's always interested in me how suspensions, it'll go on, to the first 3 games of the next series. Where if this series ends in 6 games, it'll be 1 game in the next series.
Right.
It always fascinated me kind of because
you want them to just say the end for the rest of the series.
I think it should be 4 games, but like I don't know that. I mean, here's the thing: this would never happen. But say you're a team and you're playing an elimination game against a team that you're up 3 games to nothing. You're going to eliminate this team. The next round you're going to have a really tough team to face, and a guy goes down. For 2 game for 1 game to 2 game suspension or whatever. It shouldn't benefit you to like keep playing longer in that series for the next series when it's really going to matter. If that makes any sense.
The Avalanche aren't going to purposely lose.
No, they're not going to. But there does become a benefit. I mean, Kadri's not that level of player. I'm like saying, like a Gretzky or Ovechkin or somebody got suspended.
It's not like McKinnon is suspended.
Right. If McKinnon is suspended, then they would be like, okay, it might be a benefit for this going a little bit longer because they're going to win this series anyway.
Right.
And next round, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that there's a perfect solution to this, but it is kind of a bizarre.
Well, I believe the first suspension for Kadri against the Bruins was the rest of the series.
Yeah, I think that's a better way of doing it.
Yeah,
I don't.
I
don't think that's a better way of doing it. I think don't do the crime if you can't do the time.
Right.
Then yes, it punishes the player, but it also punishes the team, and that's fair. That's your player. You went to get him. You knew he was a mayhole, as Mike puts it. And it's your decision to take him. So what if you're punished for what he's done? He's a member of your team, and that's your problem.
And think of it this way: if you suspend him for the rest of the series, and they sweep the Blues, then the suspension is 2 games.
Right, and that's what's bad.
2 games, and that's the problem. Yeah, I do agree with that. There's not, like I said, I don't think there's a real great solution to this issue, but I do think that there's an issue, like at some point.
But you know what? I think if he's suspended for like 5 games or whatever, and they replace him with Newhook or Soderberg or anyone, and they do fine without him, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't get back into the lineup. I can see Sakic not standing for this.
Yeah, no, I can see that too. I agree with you. Sakic, especially the way Sakic thinks of things. I mean, he's not going to really be happy. I mean, part of the big thing when they went there was we're giving you a new chance and a chance to be start again and do all this stuff. That was a big part of it. It's such a pointless hit. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like, to me, it's so blatantly obvious in front of it. It's not like even hidden. Like,
what was the score at that point?
I don't even know.
I don't know either, because I was getting ready to go upstairs and then I saw the hit and I'm like, oh, here we go.
I'm not sure, but the Avs were already comfortable when they.
Regardless, he had gotten rid of the puck. It was like it was plenty of time to pull back. It's right in the middle of the ice. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the thing that I posted, because before that, earlier, last night was the Sergachev butt end, which really went like completely under the radar. Kind of when I was watching the replay of the Florida Tampa game, and I saw this play. I'm like, and I don't know if you guys saw it or not on my blog, but it was a crazy. Like he goes in there and he
I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's really. I'll show it to you. We'll get into it. You guys have started the show.
I have to leave early. I won't be able to, but I get it.
Yeah. No, it was really like a totally suspendable, dirty. It was basically Vetrano was in a fight with Rudu, and they're fighting they're in a battle, and Sergachev goes along the side of the boards and just behind him, just like bam, bam, bam with his butt end into Vetrano's ribs, like just completely. It was up against the board, so he was like hiding it. You can see, but there was one angle that the camera showed.
But there's so much of that, Eck. I mean, again. You had Garnet Hathaway pushed into Tuukka Rask, and he punches him 4 times in the ribs with his blocker. He didn't get a penalty, and it wasn't Hathaway's fault. His own guy pushed him in.
When I was a kid, at least, butt ends were like a different level than punching somebody. Like a butt end is a serious like.
Hold on,
with a blocker.
Somebody with a blocker.
With a blocker, no question. No, that's true. That is a weapon. But like a butt end is like basically stabbing someone. It's like bam, bam, bam. It's really It's really that was a crazy play too. We're getting so the NHL is the bottom line here is the NHL is up against it with these suspensions and trying to make everything work.
Now here's the thing, I just looked it up. It was a 3-1 game with 13 minutes left to go in the third period. So he does that. He gets a 10-minute. They don't even get a power play out of it. He gets a 10-minute match penalty.
Yeah, how does he not get a power play? How did he not get a power play out of that?
Right, exactly. It was hit to the head.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they gave him a 10-minute match penalty and a game misconduct. And St. Louis scores a goal right after that, makes it 3-2. I mean, Kadri put that game in danger for the Avs. We don't want to waste the whole show on this.
Yeah, but if you're the Blues, how are you not furious today? How are you not furious today if you're the Blues that there wasn't a power play in that? I mean, that's just like
you're more worried about the fact that your team just doesn't score enough goals at this point,
right? But you're actually that's why you want a power play, right? Like in that situation.
According to this, it's. Well, okay, it must be the game is kind of according to this, the Blues went 1 for 2, so it must have been a 5-minute power.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know. I didn't watch this game. I watched the other one. I was out cold by this point.
Like I said, I went up right after the hit, so I didn't
yeah, okay, so it wasn't major. Thanks, guys. I figured it had to be. That just made no sense.
Yeah, sorry.
All right,
let's move on to other games.
Yeah, let's move on to the other games, and I guess we have to start in Edmonton. I mean, like, there's no really other place to go, but in a really implausible game. I mean, with some key players missing, this game, the Oilers are in trouble because the Oilers are inside their head, and this Oilers team, for whatever reason, cannot get over the mental penalty.
Connor Hellebuck credit. Connor Hellebuck was great early on.
He was great.
And that happened. But at the end of the day, McDavid and Draisaitl have to put up or shut up, because if they don't get out of this round, they are going to have a tag on them now that they don't perform in the playoffs, and that's going to be hard to break.
Yeah, those two. I mean, when you look at the Oilers when they played Canadians are able to shut down the Oilers much better than the Leafs, because McDavid and Draisaitl play more. I wouldn't say individual, but in a way, they rely on themselves much more than Matthews and Marner do with the Leafs. The Leafs have more of a team play in place, whereas the spotlight is on them.
Yeah,
that's a great point. And you saw it last night. You saw that they, the Jets just did a job, and without hugely key players.
Hey, Puljujarvi got a nice goal. Good for him.
Yeah. I mean, I really was. Kind of shocked me, and you can't draw the contrast. There can't be enough contrast in this thing. And earlier in the year, I wrote a blog about who's better, McDavid or McKinnon, right? And I'm obviously McDavid's going to win this every time. He's a crazy good individual player, but with what McKinnon does last night with a hat trick and continuing to do it with McKinnon just dominating every playoff series he's been in. I mean, he's third all time. I guess you guys saw that in points per game.
Heck, there's a difference here. I mean, the difference here is there's depth on that Avalanche team.
For sure.
There are other players besides McKinnon. There's Rantanen. There's Donskoy. There's Kadri when he's not taking stupid penalties. They have Makar on defense. You look at Edmonton, and it's all on McDavid and I've been saying this for 2 friggin' years.
And the mediocre goaltending. Again, they tried to sell Mike Smith.
Right.
Old Mike Smith, that he's going to be good enough, and he's not good enough.
Right. Yeah, I don't understand the not using Stalock at all, and basically or giving him at least a
chance. Not better.
No, but he's better, and he is. Even if he's not better, Mike. Even if he's not better, he has shown times when he's better than this. And, we can sit back and say, I mean, they obviously these guys practice, stay like practices with the team, and he hasn't been impressive enough to like say that
we don't know. COVID really could have knocked him for a loop because he definitely had it and definitely was really affected. So we don't even know what kind of shit.
There's other levels of this because you have to think that something like that's going on, Russ, because it doesn't make sense that they went and brought him in and haven't used him. Like that's just at all.
Ken Holland is going to have to stop making half measures, trying to find a diamond in the rough in Mikko Koskinen, fail. Signing Mike Smith, fail.
He's going to sign Freddie Anderson. That's what he's going to do.
Picking up Alex Stalock off of waivers, fail.
He's going to sign Freddie Anderson, Mike. That's what he's going to do.
Maybe, and Russ might be addressing the problem because he's a number one goalie.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Edmonton, that's not new, the goalie problem, is it? I mean, lots of goalies are in Edmonton. They don't play well. Then they get out of there, somehow land in Minnesota eventually, and they become good.
We all look past it because we thought Winnipeg was kind of lacking the offense. We knew the goaltending would be good, but, if Winnipeg's going to play like this, they're going to make us all look bad.
Yeah, no, they are. I mean,
make us all look bad again.
Yeah, it's going to be a goal. If a goalie can win a series, it is one game. That's the thing. And but if a goalie can win a series, then Hellebuck's got to have to win the series. Yeah. But he's going to have to win the series, or else they don't win. I mean, bottom line is he has to win the series.
It's got to be crushing to Edmonton that Ehlers is not in the lineup, Dubois is not in the lineup,
And
they, I mean, Ehlers was of all the guys. No one could score on this team, by the way. Like Edmonton won the last 6 games against them.
Right,
and they only gave up 7 goals.
Right,
and it was just
so McDavid and Draisaitl get shut out, and they get beat by Tucker Pullman and former Leaf draft pick Dominic Toninato. That's bad. That's really bad.
It's a really rough. It was a really, really rough one for sure. And I'm really kind of shocked. I was watching it. And I listen. I'm not going to say it is one game. It becomes if it becomes 2 games. It's a real issue. I mean, I did write 6. I did pick Edmonton in 6 because I had a feeling. I had a feeling, and I also wasn't on the show yesterday because of family stuff here. But if I had been on the show, I would have told you yesterday that Winnipeg was going to win Game 1 because it was one of those situations where you have like in the NHL we've seen so many times where everything is going against the team, and people have written off Winnipeg. Like I didn't see one place where anyone was giving them a chance in hell. And whenever I see that, I'm like, they're gonna win Game 1. That's just the reality. We've seen this before. What happens in Game 2 is the next question, right? That's gonna be a harder game for them to win. And I mean, Edmonton they have to find a way. I mean, Hellebuck just was amazing.
But it all comes down to the fact that great individuals do not really make a great team.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah.
If you've got a team that works harder and doesn't have the superstars, they can still win. It's just like, in the international tournaments when Russia just kept losing and losing and losing.
That's
they
true.
had lots of great stars, but they couldn't play the team. So
they didn't play as a team, I know. So which brings us to, I think, what we need to talk about for the rest of the show, which is the battle that starts tonight. We finally get a chance to see this matchup after how many years? When was the last time they played? 1967?
1979.
1979. Okay, 67 was the other day.
Well, we should before we do the preview, we should talk about the other playoff games.
We can, no, for sure. We can definitely talk about the other playoff games if you want to. But I mean, I think to me there wasn't as much going on. But go ahead, you start.
Well, okay. I thought the most interesting one and the most interesting series has been Boston.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm skipping over that. Jeez, I apologize.
And great performance again by Taylor Hall, by Marchand getting the tying goal, and then going into double overtime. And honestly, people still don't know whether Ovechkin was screaming and yelling at Samsonov after the game, sort of being dozy on the Craig Smith wraparound, or if he was yelling at the officials. But I don't know. Yeah, no,
I tend to think that Ovechkin's not yelling at Samsonov. Like I don't know. He's not. He doesn't seem like he's that kind of player. In his career, he's been in other situations. I think he can yell at the officials. That would be my. I mean, it looked like Samsonov that people are saying, but I don't know. When I saw it, it does look like that. But unless Ovechkin just lost his mind, in which case I think you would have heard Ovechkin talking about it afterwards and like apologizing and saying he lost his mind because that's the way Ovechkin is. He's not the kind of guy. He's not like a bad teammate at all. He's a really good teammate. Yeah, I mean, these games. I mean, with all the 1-goal games they played in their history now, it just in a row, it's just insane, you know. And then these overtime games are just 3 overtime games in one series. It's been a while since we've seen this. It reminds me of I think Chicago. It wasn't Chicago, LA that had one of these series that was just like crazy epic years
Chicago,
ago.
LA, or Chicago, Anaheim. There was one that was like 4 or 5 overtimes.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna, you know, it's gonna be like, and I remember joking at the time it was gonna be like Chicago in 9, you know, like in 9, it would take 9 games for Chicago to win. It's gonna take one of these teams 8 games to win if this goes to 7, because they're gonna play the equivalent of 8 games easily.
I've got a friend who's a Bruins fan, and this morning he sent me a message going, you know what, we're going to win the cup, and Tuukka is on his way to beating your stupid West record of 10 overtime win in a row. I was like, chill.
Yeah.
Breathe.
Yeah, I mean, really what you're seeing is to me is fascinating, and you're seeing 2 teams that know how to play in the playoffs. Like, these are 2 teams that know how to play in the playoffs, and that's what you're seeing clearly, because they're playing smart. You know, they're pushing hard when they have to. They're holding tight. They're not over, and therefore you're ending up with these really close games that are just being determined by bounces, essentially. Like, I mean, really, you're talking about bounces at the end of the day. When you go to overtime, anything can happen. Crazy, and you know, I think that I just, at the end of the day, I feel like Boston has a little bit more. It feels like Boston has a little bit more when I watch these games. I mean, I don't know. They feel like they're a little bit closer to where they should be, and I think and Hall, I think, puts them over the top for me right now.
Well, I mean, having secondary offense, having somebody take the heat off that perfection line was invaluable. They've tried that for a number of times over the years, whether it be Rick Nash, Yager, or whoever. This time it's working. He scored 8 goals during the regular season. He's scored a couple goals in the playoffs. You know, you're still getting that offense out of that annoying bastard Marchand, but he's a great player. I mean, I respect the heck out of him because he performs at a high level, and he's great. But he's annoying when your team plays against him. He gets underneath your skin. But that's what he's good at. And Bergeron is one of the classiest players in the game. Rask is still playing well. The only question was their defense. Their defense seems to be holding up, and the injuries right now with Washington, even though some of them are still playing, you know, Backstrom doesn't seem right. Oshie doesn't seem right. Eller. I mean, a lot of guys, and you know, they had to go to Craig Anderson after Vanacek gets hurt. Now they go to Samsonov, and I thought he played well until that overtime goal. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions with the Capitals, and you know, I thought Boston had less question marks in the series. Yeah,
they just do, and you know, it is a definite contrast between the Penguins and Islanders series. There's a real difference between these 2 series to me. Where, you know, I just feel that, you know, I feel whoever wins this, you know, if they keep playing like this versus whoever wins, I think either Washington or Boston's going to be tough to beat against the Islanders or Penguins. I feel like the Islanders and Penguins aren't playing to the level that these teams are playing. When you watch back to back, it just feels like, and it could be that they're not pushing each other to the same level, or it could be just that the way the Islanders and Penguins series, which has like a chess match type.
I think that's what it is. I mean, the Islanders could, you know, they just play boring, suffocating hockey that is not exactly pleasing to the eye, and the only way that you can combat that is by even being more suffocating, and that's what Pittsburgh did in game 2. So great, you know, it's like it's going to be like you know, just like you said, a chess match. Which, I'm sorry, even if Boris Spassky and Bobby Fischer are playing, it's not exactly exciting.
Yeah.
No, that's it. You just watch the highlights and you're good. You don't suffer through the whole nap.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, the Islanders remind me so much of the old Devils. It's just insane sometimes. And the Devils won that way, and they found ways to win, you know. But it's really, my friends and I used to joke back in the 90s that, you know, the Devils were setting hockey back 10 years back then, you know, because it was everybody was going to be, they really were. It was just, you knew everybody was going to learn just to play trapping defensive hockey, but people don't realize, you know, that the Devils team, and over the years, I've grown to respect them more than I did then as a kid. Now I definitely respect them more for what that Devils team did. So I have a lot of respect for what the Islanders are doing now too, but my gosh, yeah.
Well, you don't have to go back that far, really. If you've watched the Flames since Patrick came back. That's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing too.
People. And the games Montreal-Calgary was just so boring. It was insane. And they'd start at like 10 p.m. for me.
Yeah.
So I had to stay awake until like nearly 1 a.m. And it was just like, please, somebody do something.
That's Daryl Sutter hockey for you.
I mean, I do have a feeling now that the season has ended officially with them playing their final game yesterday. You know, I have a really strong feeling that I've seen the last Johnny Gaudreau game in Calgary. Just talking to people there, it really feels like it's over, and so he'll be an interesting player in the offseason. I think he'll be. I still think he's got a lot left, and I think this year he started off really hot, and I think if you put him in the right position, he's still got something.
But his contractual situation does not afford Calgary to get a lot for him if they want to move on from him, because he's only got a year unless he signs an extension with the team he gets traded to.
Well, I think that you could very easily see the Flames granting permission to people this summer.
Sure.
And I think that's where this will go, because it behooves everybody. You know, and it's what Gaudreau is going to want as well. I don't think Gaudreau is the kind of guy that wants to go 1 year, play 1 year someplace and then go. So he'll have a lot of say in where he goes. Now, I really feel like he'll have a big say in it.
Now, we've heard the joke every playoff, oh, this team is going to win in 3, even though it's a 4-game series. I think if it's possible for Carolina to win in 3, they would over Nashville. I mean, talk about a boring game. That
was a boring game.
Oh
and
my God.
But I do say this, that this with fans back in the arena, playing in Nashville in the playoffs is hard. And it's a different world. And once they get back there, you know, I could see the Preds taking this to 2-2. I really could. I could see them winning the next 2 games. I really could.
Maybe, but they struggled all through the season. So
they
weren't even going to make it.
Saros didn't play bad yesterday, but the issue with this game is I think they had 6 power plays and they went 0 for 6. You know, and
they did, and again, and Johansson, Duchesne, it's like these guys. It's just so unbelievably annoying. Just take them off the freaking power play at this point. Like, to me, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of watching them play on the power. I'm watching them just get the puck and move it to somebody else, and not be like aggressive, not have any kind of determination in their stride. Like they're just moving the puck along. You know, I could sit there on the point and move the puck from one side to the other. You know, it's like let's see something aggressive. Like let's see. And I think, although being like a Preds whisperer in my mind. Like that's a team I really have a feel for. I feel, because I just have followed them so closely for so long. This team thrives in the situation that is now in, where people are saying if a series ends in 3, like this is like that is where the Predators throughout their history have surprised people. They are not a good team. Like the year after they went to the Stanley Cup final and they get into the playoffs, you know, with a lot of expectations. That's never been the Preds' MO. They're not good in that situation. But the year they went to the finals, remember, was the year that they barely made the playoffs and then ended up sweeping Chicago in the first round when everybody thought they would get killed by the Blackhawks. It's just this Preds team. This is exactly. It's like we have you where you want. The joke, we have you where you want, where we want you. This is them. This is and the fans of Nashville know this too. That's the other thing. That Preds team and that fan base is so connected. The fans of Nashville know this. No one in Nashville is nervous right now until they lose at home. Until they lose at home, no one's nervous because they know that this is how this works. So I think Game 3 on this will be spectacular. I do. I think as boring as the first 2 games were, I think Game 3 will be a totally different ball of wax. But we'll see. So let's now move on to the big to the moment of the hour, and why we have the lovely Karine here with us today. We have been waiting for this since 1970 something, and here we have it. The Leafs and the Canadiens in a playoff series. It is pretty freaking amazing. It just sucks that there aren't fans involved. Although there might be at some point. Is that what we're hearing?
Yes, it is. There might be if the series goes to 6 games. The Montreal Canadiens could welcome as much as 2,500 fans.
That's a lot more than now.
Well, it's more than now, and 2,500 Canadiens fans are more noisy than 21,000 people in Florida. So,
no, not this Florida, but yes. But yeah, no, I do hear you there. This Florida building apparently is crazy loud. I was talking to somebody who was down there. But they have 9,000 people down there or whatever. They have the huge, like Tampa increased it to 9,000 for tonight. So going to 9,000 night, 9,000 Saturday night. I, by the way, will be in Tampa on Saturday night.
Well, by the way, it was reported. I believe Elliot Friedman reported it that by June the 1st, the NHL will decide on whether the Canadian winner, the winner of the division, will go to a neutral third site, or the teams will be able to go in and out of Canada. So if that's the case, then you could have Toronto playing in Buffalo or Edmonton playing in Minnesota or someplace like that as a third. And the reason that they would do this is in Buffalo you can have at least 35% capacity at Keystone Center. So
right, which is a lot, and that's really not bad for Leaf fans to come down to. So it's not the worst thing in the world.
You'd have to quarantine when you go back, but there are a lot of American Leaf fans in Western New York and other places,
right?
So that, but I think what the NHL is considering here is, Ontario. Right now it's 0, and it's probably going to be 0 through at least the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
With Montreal, it's only that's 10%, 2,500 or maybe 50,
roughly
a little more than 10% because I think Bell Center holds
21,000.
Yeah, so to say 10%, I mean that's you're not making any money there, and every dollar is $1 less than the players have to pay back the owners, so that will be a factor.
Well, we're talking about Montreal and Toronto here. These teams are making money. These are the two teams. These are the 2 teams in Canada that can actually that can withstand not having fans. Like they're okay right now because I mean the money those 2 teams make is insane, right? This is different, but I do agree with you that that doesn't mean that they don't want to sell tickets, right? Like they need ticket sales is still hugely important, but probably the 2 cities in the entire NHL is least important are Toronto and Montreal.
Right.
But still, I think but just why I want fans, I just want the freaking excitement of fans that this series would have if this series was played in front of fans. It's crazy, and the reporters who are going to cover it, are going to be fun for them for sure, but. Again, part of this series' charm would be the excitement of the fans still.
Pierre LeBrun wrote a fantastic piece in The Athletic a couple days ago regarding the missed opportunity of the '93 Stanley Cup Final, which would have been Leafs Canadiens if it wasn't for Gary Fraser and Wayne Gretzky. They talked to guys like Vinny Domfus and Doug Gilmour and Kurt Muller and Muller. All 3 of them played for both the Canadiens and the Habs, and they essentially said Canada would have been shut down for 2 weeks. It would have been psychotic. And Pat Burns, who would coach both teams, probably would have been playing some mind games with Patrick Waugh.
Yeah,
there's no way to know who would have won that series. I mean, I'm sure people that Corinne knows in Montreal say, of course the Habs would have won, and everybody that I know in Toronto and Buffalo would have said the Leafs would have kicked their butt. Nobody knows. It's that kind of question that will never be answered in history. But again, it's something that I wish we would have been able to find out. But coming to this series, the here and the now, I just posted on Hockey Buzz my prediction. I said the Leafs in 6. Mm-hmm. I think that Leaf fans should be very hesitant to taking the Habs lightly. I don't think they are, because they know how the Leafs normally, when they take somebody lightly, they lose. And they've done that consistently since 2004. But even though I think I think Montreal is built for that physical defensive style that you play in the playoffs, and that Claude Julien would have played in the playoffs. And now I don't know if Ducharme is going to stick with that, but I think he has to, because the team is placed that way. And Corinne, I'm going to ask you, because when we heard the news on Tuesday that he's not playing Kotkaniemi, he's not playing Caulfield, he's not playing Romanoff, and he's playing in their place John Merrill, Joel Armia, and Eric Stahl, I thought of you, and I thought of you having a stroke.
You weren't far off, quite frankly.
There really is, truly.
It's just mind-boggling. When they went out and they got Eric Stahl, I was actually glad, because I thought, well, there they go. They got a fourth-line center, insurance policy, something in case it doesn't go right. But what they did was put him straight in the third center spot without any proof that he could actually do the job, and just, Stretch Evans, put Kotkaniemi down on the fourth line, even made him play the wing at times. And it's just since then, Kotkaniemi's been unrecognizable. And, he's not performing, but he's the guy who's had 18 different line combinations this year. 18 different lines. That's just ridiculous. How are you supposed to build any kind of chemistry? And then you go and you've got Cole Caulfield now, and this team has struggled to score goals for 20 years. But why would they use a sniper? I ask you. I mean,
a fast player
why not just put Joel Armia in there?
I mean, why take any speed out against Toronto? That's my quick question. Like, why take any speed out of your lineup against Toronto?
Exactly, and that's the thing as well, because you've got the fourth line right now that is Perry, Stahl, and Anderson. Why is Anderson on the fourth line? Anderson is one of the speediest wingers they've got.
As a closet Canadiens fan, Korean, sorry to interrupt you, but as a closet Canadiens fan, which I've always been, I feel that this has been the worst coaching I've ever seen since he took over. And people were giving me hell about it before. I just felt like I don't understand this. Is this guy a puppet of the general manager or something like that? What is the deal?
Well, it looks like it, because if you think about it, quite frankly, he's coaching like he's Claude Julien 2.0 now, but with his hands tied. Because when Bergevin went and Panic got 2 new defensemen, he basically put him like that against the cap. So much so that he couldn't even get Stahl out of the lineup. He couldn't recall anyone. So he was stuck with Stahl. And, I was like, okay, well, he's stuck right now. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, see what happens in the playoffs. And lo and behold, nothing changes, no kids. Everything he's done well so far, he's had to do because of necessity.
Right.
He's finally discovered that if you put a puck-moving defenseman and a big stay-at-home guy on the same pairing, it's going to be more balance.
Yeah, right.
They'll help. But he only discovered that because Chariot and Weber both got injured at one time or another, and he was like, "Whoa, wow, that actually works."
Yeah,
but, it was like an accident. I don't get it, and I'm just really, really annoyed with going with the old guys because let's face it. Okay, my prediction is Leafs in 7, only because I know the Canadians love being the underdog and they'll give quite a fight. But
they do, and normally,
they're not cup contenders. Okay, so what better time is there to give experience to your kids so that when they are cup contenders, the kids have experience?
I don't think that this is a permanent thing. Like I said to Russ on yesterday's show, I think that they're putting in the veteran guys. Ducharme is putting in the veteran guys to say, okay, I went with the veterans. It didn't work. Now I'll go with the kids.
Yeah, maybe.
You're not at liberty to throw a game. You're already
not throw it, but say that he sticks with the vets for the first 2 games. They lose the first 2. They're down 2-0, and then it's like, all right, kids, no pressure, but we're down 2. Let's go.
What Ducharme is trying to do, I'm looking at it from the outside perspective. What Ducharme is trying to do tonight is, okay, he's going to go physical. He wants to grind the Leafs into the ice. The Leafs power play has been ineffective. So if you take a few penalties, that's fine. As long as you inflict some punishment, you're going to match Danault against Matthews to hope to annoy him or shut him down.
That's good.
Yeah, but you can't when you don't have the last change.
Right. Well, no, but Sheldon, and maybe this is just fodder for before the game, but Sheldon Keefe says, I'm not going to hide Austin Matthews from anybody. So that means I'll put him out against anybody, including Danault. But I think
watch him play him against Perry and Stahl.
Right, exactly, because then it'll be a speed mismatch. I almost get the feeling that they put Anderson on that line to match up Perry and Stahl and Anderson against the what I call the prehistoric line of Thornton, Spezza, and Simmons, because they'll all be moving at the same speed, which is slow.
Which means we'll be watching the game in slow motion. Yay!
Yeah, I mean the Leafs aren't. I mean, listen, there's no way the Leafs are going to let that happen. I mean, they're not going I mean, you can say they're not going to match up Matthews against somebody or whatever, but you're definitely going to take advantage of that slow line. You're not going to put out your slow line against them. You're the better team. The better team doesn't do that. The better team doesn't sit back and say, okay,
think of it this way. The one thing about that line, about Spezza, Thornton, and Simmons is that they're slow. If you're playing against another slow line, that they sort of cancel each other out. But Simmons, Spezza, and Thornton is much more skilled than Perry, Stahl, and Anderson.
Right.
So I think they would win on skill.
I mean, they're two really lines with all kinds of stuff in them. So I wouldn't say they're not 100% more skilled. I mean, Anderson's obviously a really good. Anderson's not.
And Perry, Perry's still an annoying presence. I mean,
he's annoying and he's got skills. He just can't move. So if he parks himself in front of the net, you're golden. But he has to get there first.
But Anderson is speedy. He's got speed. Anderson's got speed. He's a power forward.
Anderson's the Punisher. That's what he is.
But Anderson's that's not what he should be. That's not what he should be on a team that can't score goals. It's like,
yeah, and he's got speed, but most of his goals this year have been scored when the other forwards have kind of sent him on a breakaway type of thing.
Right.
But who's gonna send him on a breakaway now with Stahl and Perry, because they don't actually come back to give themselves as options to the defense. They're already up there because they don't want to skate too much.
And Corinne, here's the thing I don't understand. Drouin is not going to play in this series. If you're going to play, I mean, once I heard that, I'm like, okay, Caulfield's got to be in because they need that offense. And they're putting in Joel Armia instead of Caulfield. Now, I think Joel Armia is a fine big two-way forward, but he can't score. And other than Suzuki and Tatar and maybe one or two other guys, I'm not scared of any. Now that doesn't mean that Montreal can't win a 2-1 game, because I think they can, because if Carey Price is Carey Price, if Jack Campbell doesn't play well because it's his first Stanley Cup playoff game, if the Leafs power play can't score, then Montreal could win a close check. But that's a lot of ifs. It's a lot.
It's a time. It is, and to be honest, I really hate the fact that Armia is on that second line with Toffoli, but and Suzuki. But then again, Ducharme stumbled on some chemistry there when everyone else was injured. So now he's like, well, that works, so they're going to stay like that. Well, you have a better option.
Yeah, right. You have better options, and like, I mean, let's remember that Armia, who I like, is a fine player, third or fourth line player, but he's part of like a Steve Mason trade way back. I mean, he's been around forever, been like fumbling different. I mean, he's been like all over the place.
Part of the Evander Kane Buffalo deal.
Yeah, right. I mean, I just have a really, I don't know. This to me, this is just. So I always try to look for the positive. I always try to find the one positive that I can find, right? Like okay, I try. I'm really, that's the way I work, and I'm like, okay, so what is he thinking? All right, so our fast young skilled players aren't as good as their fast young skilled players. Okay, all right, they're not. Okay, so say Caulfield's not Mitch Marner.
I don't think it's that.
No, but just let me finish this train of thought. This is the way they're thinking.
Okay,
I don't think this is, if this is the way. Okay, so Caulfield's maybe not Marner. Kotkaniemi's not Matthews. So if we go skill for skill with them, we're going to lose. So instead, what we're going to just do is we're going to confuse them, and we're going to confuse. We're going to. It's like the old Monty Python confuse a cat skit is what came to my head.
Except he's not confusing people right now. What he's doing is putting some cones on the ice for the Leafs to skate around.
That's the thing. You can't out physical a team you can't catch.
Well, exactly.
Here's the thing that I'm curious about, and we'll see. I mean, we saw Corinne at practice yesterday, and I'm not going to overinterpret a 10-second piece of video, but when Carey Price lets in an easy shot and fires the stick on the post and almost decapitates the defenseman who's skating around the net, he was really pissed off at, just him being unable to stop an easy shot. And Shea Weber trying to fight through the pain to shoot shots with what was reportedly a broken thumb. I mean, there are a lot of guys on both sides that are playing at less than 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, they are, and that is, go ahead. I mean,
I'm not worried about that Price shot, the outburst type of thing. If you're a competitor, you don't like being scored on, even at practice. I mean, I never played pro hockey, but I was playing handball at provincial level, and I was a goalie. And it ended up being that if I would go the whole practice without letting a goal in, the girls would have to do 50 push-ups. At the end of practice, it was like a contest.
Right.
Because the coach knew how much I hated being scored on. So, you want
to make it more. And I think that is what you're seeing with Price to a degree. Like that's what I felt. That's what I felt like when I saw that. I'm like, I mean, there's so many other things that are happening, and it's easy like to pick that clip, as a reporter. There's so many other things that are happening around the ice. Like it could be something as stupid as he had a bet with a player, like you're not going to score on me or whatever. It could be Price even just being like, because you can't see under a guy's mask. He could be just like jokingly like playing around with his team too. There's all
I can sympathize if he's being a perfectionist, because when I bowl, I've kicked the ball return many a time. So that I can understand it completely, but it's not a good sign that the fact that he's rusty after not playing for a month. I mean, it's the same thing with Freddie Anderson. If Freddie Anderson has to come in, he hadn't played in 2 months. He looked bad in 2 AHL games. He looked bad in 1 game.
Yeah.
The Leafs have to go to him. I think they're in trouble. That's why they're going with Campbell, because he's had such a good record. But Gallagher coming back after 6 weeks. Weber missing time, Foligno missing time, Hyman missing time. There's a lot of guys coming back after missing significant time, and that rust that it's on them. I think that's a factor.
Well, it is a factor, but last summer in the bubble, how rusty did Price look after 5 months of not moving?
Not much.
Not rusty at all.
No, I mean this is not a young guy. He knows what he's doing.
Yes, that's true. But I'm just wondering if playoffs Price shows up, Canadians will be fine. If it's this season's Price that shows up,
right,
they're in big trouble.
I don't even know if playoff Price shows up if they're fine, though. I don't even know if playoff Price shows up, they'll be fine. I think that this is beyond that. I really. Well,
he can't beat the Leafs on himself. I know
he can. He just can't.
If playoff Price shows up, he can steal at least 2 games.
Right, he could get a couple games, and he could get tonight. Like tonight's one of those games again. It's just like so much going against one team. But
here I think is a factor, and this is the reason I picked against the Leafs last year when they played Columbus. There was a frustration level with the Leafs that when they played a team like Columbus, a team that you made it tough for them to go to the front of the net, a team that made it tough for them to go to the center of the ice to create, they got frustrated and they lost their cool and they lost their patience. And except for that outburst at the end of Game 4, the reason they lost that series wasn't Freddie Anderson. It was because they couldn't score goals. This year, with the savvy that they have with Spezza, with Thornton, with Simmons, with Foligno, the veteran guys, Bogosian that they added, CJ Brody, there's a lot more experience there. And I don't think the Leafs will lose their cool if Montreal plays the frustrating game that they can. So
exactly, the Leafs have got more grit and tenacity than they used to have.
They have a lot more grit, and they also have Matthews is just at another level right now too, and that you can't, when you see guys reach that level, that they just, Matthews doesn't need a lot of space, and he doesn't score goals. He doesn't need a lot of doesn't have to score pretty goals. He literally just gets everything towards the net. It doesn't matter if the puck is fired at his head; he'll get a shot out of it. It's like he is somehow. So to me, Matthews doesn't care about going. He'll go into the dirty spots. He'll score the dirty goals. He's just. And they don't have any real way of stopping that. Like honestly,
well, there is one, but it's going to depend how much the refs let them play. If they let Weber get his way with him,
right,
hit him and cross-check him and stuff like that. I
mean, and Weber though, Weber can definitely hit him. Weber's not a dirty player, so he'll.
No, it's not dirty, but he does flirt with the line. He really does.
He does definitely. He's got an edge to him for sure, and that's part of what his game is. But he's not gonna. I mean, to me, the difference that this feels like the first playoffs where it's on Matthews and not Tavares. To me, like what I feel, I felt like and I feel like in the past, I've expected Tavares is the guy he's got to be the guy who's going to win this for them. He's got to be the guy who's going to take this for him. And Matthews really has taken it over, as far as that goes.
You get into trouble when you expect 1 or 2 players to carry it.
For sure, but you know what I mean. This is
even when it's McDavid and Draisaitl. That's why I've been so anti-Edmonton. But Matthews is not. He's got a supporting cast around him. I'm just saying there is always a guy whose team is this, and this feels like the first time it's Matthews' team versus Tavares' team. And why I think that's important to me is. We saw Tavares' teams on the island, as well. And Tavares is a great player, incredibly skilled player, but he doesn't inspire people quite the way Matthews can. And Matthews has the ability to inspire. And I think that if this team follows Matthews, because in the past it was always we saw Matthews in the playoffs not getting playing on the 3rd and 4th line too. Like they tried that trick and it really worked well for them. But but like putting Anderson on the 4th line for Montreal. I think it's always been Matthews' team. I think that Tavares was brought in there as a counter, as a second guy.
I think he was brought in there so it didn't have to be Matthews. I think he was brought in there so it didn't have to be Matthews' team for a while too, though, Mike. I think that they wanted to not put that pressure on him. They wanted to like.
Well, yes. And they would have put that pressure on him if they had made him captain, and that's why they made Tavares.
They didn't make him captain. They were really smart about this whole thing. But there is almost no denying now that it is his team, and he doesn't have to wear a C on his shirt to be his team. And they knew that too. So eventually, he will wear a C on his jersey. It's just a matter of when that is. And I think that
it's ironic. It's ironic that he won the Rocket Richard, Corinne. It's like not that
that's not quite our specialty anymore.
Yeah, it's not just that he scored all those goals though. It's how he scored a lot of those goals. Like he sort of scores goals just that other players wouldn't score, and that's what's special about him. Like to me, that's the thing that just puts him like there are very few players that can really compare him to that way, because he really, I mean, he has a great one-on-one shot. If he's alone, he's going to bury it, but he also just scores these other goals that are just, and not just the goals he scores, like some of the shots he takes that you just wouldn't believe that he turns into shots too. He just puts so much on net. And against Price, scoring goals is the way to get Price has always been to create chaos around him, because Price is such a good goalie straight up one-on-one. If you have a chance to, if he can square up on you, you're not going to beat him. So you have to push it around him. You have to put the puck low on net, try to get the rebound. You have to crash the net. You have to do things to Price. And I don't think Montreal's defense, has enough to keep Toronto from doing that.
Well,
I think Toronto.
I think Montreal's, and Corinne, tell me if you think I'm wrong here. I think Montreal's defense, especially the big four, which and I know they're not going to be playing in the top four. They moved Sherratt down to one pair and Weber to the other. But the big four being Sherratt, Weber, Edmondson, and Petrie. Yeah, they're all big. Most of them are tough. They're going to try to punish the Leafs forwards if they go to the front of the net. I don't think they'll be cheap, but I think they'll be overly aggressive because they don't respect Toronto's power play, because Toronto's power play went 4 for the last 95 over like the last 20 games.
Yeah, they don't have much to play for. I don't know.
I'll just say this.
Yeah.
If Toronto's power play scores a couple goals, not, either tonight or on Saturday.
Yeah.
That will make Montreal rethink their strategy. But if they don't, if they continue to struggle, Montreal will keep pouring on the physicality because they can do it with impunity.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying when I said it depends how much the ref lets them play.
Yeah, but think about if your strategy is to give the best scoring team I think the best offense in the NHL more power plays, if that's your strategy,
no, your strategy is to rely on the fact that the refs put away the whistles during the playoffs.
Right,
That is the strategy.
It doesn't matter. They're going to score, Mike. They're going to score enough. They don't have to score a ton to beat Montreal, so they're going to score enough that it's going to. If they go 4 for 25 in the first 2 games, that's 2 goals Montreal has to get back each game.
I don't think Montreal's going to take 25 penalties.
No, but I know. But I'm just saying, probably not. But I'm just like, Harry
Fraser's not the referee.
Probably a bad example. But even say that stretch out over 4 games, even that's a goal a game that you got to get back, right? So it's like, to me, that's even a lot of penalties, right? But still, I think that what you do here, if I'm the coach of the Montreal Canadiens, is you put your best players out there, and you realize that you're probably not going to beat the Canadiens, but you're going to get better from it. Like, you're going to learn from it. These Caulfield's going to get his first playoff series under his belt. That's usually important.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I said. I said that they're not contenders, so they need to gain the experience. But right. Charm is not going that way at all. It seems like he's trying to make Bergevin look like a genius for his late season acquisitions, which were absolutely crap. Well, but if you look at what he did,
talk about going down with the ship, Korean, because if they go out quickly in this playoff, I don't think it's going to be good for either of them.
Yeah, I know, but Sham is probably thinking, I'm going to use the players he gave me. That way, that guy is still going to like me, and maybe, just maybe, I'll keep my job. But he's done nothing to keep his job.
Which means, do they go to those young guys by game 3? If they lose the first 2, do they go to them by game 3? Do they go to them by game 2?
You don't go to them
by game 2. I'm hoping by game 2.
Historically, at least game 3. Like, if you make this decision and you just go back on it right away, you really do look like you don't trust yourself.
Well, if you go to them by game 3, then what you're doing is you're protecting yourself because you can control who they play against. If you put Kotkaniemi and Caulfield out against Riley Nash, and Billy Mikheyev.
Think about how insulting that is to the players.
Well, yes, you can control who they play against, but the fact is, do you really prevent the Leafs from scoring by giving them a line of Stahl, Perry, and Anderson to work with?
No. I mean, think about
Weber on the defense who can barely move. I mean, come on. This team used to be successful when it was a speedy team.
That's exactly right. That's how this team beat Pittsburgh last year.
They lost their identity completely with the latest changes.
What this is an admission of, Corinne, is that Montreal believes that they even with their most skilled players out there playing a skill game, that they can't match up to the skill of Toronto. So they have to play some other way. They have to, what I'm saying is they have to play defensive style, shut down, win 2-1, be physical, rub the Leafs.
But then you're not only.
You're losing now and you're losing long term.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
At least play to your strengths. Like at least play to your strengths. Like if you can't control how strong the other team is, but you can control what you're doing. Like so, like at least this is not the New York Islanders. They have not been trained to sit there and shut a team down. That's not the way they play. So it's like.
That's the game that they were trained to play under Claude Julien, because that's the type of play that Claude Julien plays.
Yeah, but yes, Julien has that history, but Julien also was better at adjusting to what he had in front of him. I mean, Julien
was all about defensive. Second time, Julien kind of adjusted to the lineup that he had, and that's when they got speedy. But somewhere, it got lost. I don't know why. But.
Their quickness was what made them dangerous last year. Like their four defenders that you mentioned, Mike, the four big guys that they have are all, yes, they're all very strong, big guys, but really only one of them is quick. You know, like Sherratt is quick.
Petrie is quick.
Petrie is all right. I'll give you Petrie.
Petrie is quicker than Sherratt.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the other two are definitely not as big and as strong and tough as they are. They're not necessarily going to be quick enough to play against this team. So it's like, I mean, they're going to play against them, obviously, and they're going to do their best, but they're not going to be able to dominate them.
Weber, in a way, Weber is like Chara, even though he's slowed down. He's got that big range and that reach that is, and his strength. You know, you don't want to be close to him if you're a Leaf forward, because he'll just engulf you. So I mean,
Weber's strength to me, and this is what he does if you get to see Montreal live and you get to see.
I saw him 10 times this year, X. So they're not secrets here when it comes.
No. But the thing that Weber does really well is you get to see live more than you get to see when you're watching on television, because Weber live is a quarterback of the entire team's defense. Right. Like you realize that he is constantly pointing to people. Like he's like you got that guy, you got that. That's what he does as he's skating backwards. He is very good at organizing everybody in front of him.
There wasn't that much audibles from Weber this season. Seriously.
I know.
At times I actually held my breath when he was on the ice with Sherratt, because there was so many turnovers. It was all over the place.
And I think that
Weber is still good, but not as good as he was.
No, right. He's not there. That was when he was at his right. That's when he was at his best. And I think, the typical Canadian kindness way that they, I mean it by not Montreal Canadians, but the general Canadian public. And the Canadian kind of these players that have that leadership, you do this, you do that. They tend to get a lot quieter when their own game diminishes. They don't talk, and when they're on top of their game, they're like, okay, I'm great. You've got to follow me. When they don't feel great, they're different. And that, I've seen it with the Claude Giroux in Philly. I've seen it with other players too. It's just completely that's how it plays out. So, gosh, it's my prediction. So you have the Leafs in 7, right? 7 and 6.
And Russ picked Montreal in 7.
Russ picked Montreal in 7?
Yes, he did.
Wow, man! I'm always the counter guy, right? I always get yelled at for being counter guy.
I think he was just trolling me, but
Russ is. I think maybe Russ is insane.
Either that, or he's very aware that the Leafs haven't won anything since 2004.
Right, which
I don't know how he would be aware of that, Corinne.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, this is I'm going with Leafs in 5. And I think
5?
that I'm going in 5. Yeah, and the reason I say that is because I think that this is the thing. If you're giving up the first game and you're giving basically if this style works tonight,
you're not giving up the first game.
Here's the problem, Mike. Here's the problem with this thing. Okay, the way they're doing this tonight, it works against them no matter what happens. Because if they win tonight, if Montreal wins tonight,
They stay with the same lineup.
They think this is the greatest thing ever, and there's no way they win the series with this because they can't. They can win a game, they can steal a game, but there's no way. If they lose tonight, then they go with this again. That's 2 games down already, and now they're in a situation where they're in desperation because the second they lose that third game, it's over essentially. So they've got to sit there and maybe put Caulfield in and Kotkaniemi in for the third game. No, that's that. I don't. If they lose tonight, then they make the changes. The team is in disarray. They're out in 5. If they win tonight, that's great. But Toronto just takes care of them in the next 4 games because you could only ride this kind of game for 1 game. If this was a situation, in my opinion, you can get 1 game out of this. If they don't win tonight,
what they're hoping for is they win tonight. They put the pressure on the Leafs, the specter of the last 17 years.
It matters to them.
And then all the media is like, what's wrong with the Leafs? Why can't they win in the playoffs? Will they go to Freddie Anderson? Is that all these questions? Yeah. That's
First of all, I think not having Freddie Anderson in there takes a lot of that out because that is part of their history of losing in the playoffs. I don't care whether he's played well or not. He's just not there. That helps. I also don't think that Matthews and Marner and the young leaders of this team really could give a crap about that. Like I honestly feel like that's why I feel like this team is going to be just like we lost tonight. Wow, they're just going to be angrier and they'll come out harder in games 2 and they will. I don't see this as a choking situation for Toronto at all. I don't.
I'm not saying it'll be a choking situation, but what I'm saying though is that the Canadians historically try to fight to the death. I mean, even when they were down 3-1 against Washington in 2010, they came back. They were down 3-2 against Pittsburgh.
Oh, you're right. And I mean, as a Montreal fan, I hate to say 5 because I don't want them to. I want them to win the series, but I also think, and you're right. And this Canadians, but this confusion that's being sown is causing them to like play out of their comfort zone to me, and that's why I feel like this is such a horrendous coaching job. Like I feel like if they had played those guys, I would have said 6 or 7. If they were just going with their normal lineup and just going to try to skill for skill, I would say 6 or 7. But by doing this, I talked to another guy last night who kind of agreed with me. By doing this, they are in the locker room. It doesn't sow any feelings of like confidence. It does not give confidence to the players. This makes them feel like, wait, Kotkaniemi, wasn't he like the awesome last playoffs? Wasn't he incredible? And hold on, Caulfield has come in here and we're not going to play those guys. Like that doesn't sow confidence. It really, those guys in the room are going to be like, they're going to be like, oh, they think we can't beat Toronto, so they're just going to try this like crazy thing.
Well, the way Gallagher has spin it is to say that, yeah, we're going to try our hardest. We've got a good lineup, but we know that if the job doesn't get done, we've got those young guys waiting in the wings that can come in and help us. So
that's why Gallagher is a great leader because that's a great thing to say. That's a great way to spin it. But in the locker room, those guys don't think that way, but that's the way you have that. That's the way he has to. That he's going to be saying that, and Weber's going to be saying that, I'm sure. But leaders, that's what leaders do. But no.
Let's just say that there'll be multiple Orkin Man trucks parked outside of the Scotiabank Arena in preparation for Brendan Gallagher tonight. So.
Yeah. No, I really. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a blast to watch. I hope. I want it to be. I really want the Canadians to get killed tonight. As a Canadian fan,
talk about the king of reverse psychology.
Right. So I want them to get. If I'm a Canadians fan, I want them to get killed tonight. So they have no choice but to bring those guys in game 2 and realize that this is and make the switch as quickly as possible. Because what happens is you don't lose this. Series are clinched in games 5, 6, and 7, but you sometimes can lose them in game 1 and 2, and that's what happens here. Like for the perfect example is we got to go. But Florida, Tampa, which happens tonight too, right? Game 3. This is it for Florida, right? They have to win this game.
And Dredger is playing again tonight,
which is the right decision. So in my mind, Quenneville, I go with him on that. But here's but. Florida has played well enough to win both of the first 2 games, and they didn't. So Tampa's a great team. I don't think many people would beat Tampa right now with Kucherov playing the way he's playing. But Florida's played well enough to hang with them. It's been 2 1-goal games really, and they've had leads and stuff like that. But they So that means that Florida has 2 chances that they missed on, and they could win game 3, game 4, and make it, but still they can't get past the fact that they missed on those. So at some point they're going to lose game 3, they're going to lose a game, and now they're up against it because they lost game 1 and 2. You know, there's like a psychology to this. You have to not lose games early in the series for nothing. You can't just give them away.
Yeah. We'll talk about it more tomorrow, but we just have to mention that John Davidson returns to Columbus on a 5-year deal.
Surprising.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that tomorrow. I mean, it's clear to me that he just doesn't want to go back to TV.
Mm-hmm.
That he likes being a team president, because you can be a team president and do your job and go and do your other things, and it's not a nice cushy job to be a team president.
And then he extends Kawhi
for 2 more years. Yes.
And that's kind of weird. Was he the one who extended Yarmo, or was Yarmo?
I think it was announced at the same time. So
because he's usually the guy who would, like, the president would be the guy who extends the GM.
Right.
New president extend the GM. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy for my Dave, our buddy from Taylor Swift's band, who's been on the show, was thrilled about this. I talked to him this morning, so he's like, yeah, I'm thrilled about this. He just wants, they just got to get their defenseman signed. That's their what they're worried about now. Seth Jones is all about Seth Jones right now in Columbus. All right, that's all the time we have. What a show! Fun times. Remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you again